that's the whole thing, right? Like that's this whole topic, is that communicating that message instead of going like, I'm looking at both roads that lead to like nowhere. Like if you're going to not talk about something, you might as well just have the conversation and see if it can lead to something better instead of just avoiding it completely.
Hi, I'm Dave Tina.
And I'm Angie Tina.
Welcome to the 10-Year Marriage Podcast.
On this podcast, we answer the question, what if your marriage came with a 10-year contract?
How would you show up if there was a deadline in your relationship? What would your life look like in the future? And how would you recommit every day?
Come with us on this journey as we navigate as partners, entrepreneurs, and parents in this big life we've created.
We got so many things we talk about, but this actually is happening in real time.
This morning?
Yes. Well,
starting last night.
Starting the day before that. I mean, you've been walking around with like a redwood up your ass for the last at least 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to force me to communicate right now.
That's a great way to, I'm communicating beautifully. So do you want, it's interesting. We're going to be like talking about the way we communicate while we're communicating.
Yeah.
And how like me saying that potentially isn't a wonderful way of talking, but if I'm saying it with love and breaking your balls, maybe it can open you up.
Potentially. And how people react to communication and conflict, because I think both of us have very different ways that we react to conflict. And so we've had to learn over the course of 15 years, really how to manage that with each other.
So let's set the table.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that couples that fight or argue or collide are healthier than ones that don't?
I think there's a healthy balance. I think if people are always colliding and having conflict around really important things, like really big things like politics and religion and how to raise your kids and how to have a healthy relationship, I don't think that those are healthy relationships.
Yeah, so you're saying values need to be aligned and set. That's a whole nother conversation, but yes.
Exactly. But people, like when we fight, as much as I hate it and as much as I go inward and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do this right now, I feel like there's a tipping point within our conversation where I'm like, actually, I know I didn't like this conversation, but this conversation needed to be had. And we always come to a healthy place afterwards, most of the time. There's every once in a while, it's a lingering thing. But most of the time, if we go full circle and we stick with the conversation and we don't just retreat, because that's my thing is like, I am the retreater. I'm like I'd rather not talk about this now.
You're the avoider. You're the one who's going to go, you're going to bury it.
Exactly.
Right? It's an interesting point for me because I've had conversations with friends, and some of them they say like they're going to counseling. They're talking about their relationship so much, and it's easy to give counsel when you're not in it, right?
Totally.
And I'd say to them, maybe the thing that you think is the worst about your relationship right now is the thing that's the best. Maybe you're just going through the J curve right now. You're going through the messy time and, you have to collide. And the fact that you're both willing to go there is healthier than not doing it at all. Maybe that makes you have a stronger relationship. I truly believe that the worst emotion you can give somebody is indifference,
mm-hmm.
right? When someone just doesn't care. I mean, there's still passion and anger.
Right. Well, and we've actually talked about that with our exes, right? Like there's some relationships that both of us have been in where there was that indifference and that was actually harder. And some people were showing so much emotion and then some people weren't showing any emotion at all and they just didn't give a shit,
Well, and that's the reason why we're doing this in the first place, right? Yeah. The 10-year marriage came from, the story, a vacation in Pompeii, but one of the things that we've been talking about forever is our willingness to be open,
mm-hmm.
not only with each other, but with other couples, gives them this sense of like, I'm not alone. Everyone deals with this and it's okay. So just having this conversation of how like we fight, like
mm-hmm.
how would we be pontificating? Like if we were just sitting here and saying, no, this is the way you should be in your marriage and our marriage is perfect. That would be the most disingenuous bullshit out there.
Yeah. And It's interesting because just even this morning about figuring out what our topic was going to be for today, and I was kind of in my head and in my reaction state that I typically tend to go to. We were already we were triggering each other on different levels and even last night, right? And so that's part of the beauty of doing this.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. That's part of the beauty of doing this now is because it's having the conversation, even though it's in real time and it's in front of whoever watches this, it's still helping us work through our own shit while we're trying to help other people do it.
Inside of the moment. And it's interesting because also I was like, shit, one of our first episodes, we're going to be fighting. I was like, I don't really want that to be the thing. But for me, and I could see it with you, especially when I was driving out and you had stopped, I was like, just us talking about doing this today, that we're creating something, talking about topics and what we're going to talk about, that moment in the bathroom got us back aligned towards something we are co-creating.
Right.
And I was thinking as I was driving, I was like, that co-creation is what is getting us out of this just funk, right? So the irony of that is that, like, I believe for couples to have a future, they must have a compelling future.
100%. And it's about meeting and checking on that future and the goals of each other and how they're aligned constantly. Because the problem with us a lot of the time is that we both, or we have the same goal, but the way I'm trying to accomplish something and the way you're trying to accomplish something is very, very different.
100%.
And so we're going in two different directions instead of meeting together and like figuring it out as not even as a couple. Like there's still independence about it, but making sure we're aligned on that, on the same thing, right? And
Well,
I
you
think
have
it's
to
the
have
check-ins, constant check-ins.
a compelling future, growth, creation. It needs to happen both collectively and individually. I mean, that's the whole point. I always say, like, you may outgrow each other at different points in the relationship. The requirement is for the other person to catch up. And yes, you could have these individual goals and growth ideas and purpose. But at the end of the day, in order for the relationship to work, there has to be a meeting.
Yeah.
And so what I noticed today was when you stopped, I don't know if you realized this, like
When I stopped where?
when you were driving, you left before me.
Oh, yeah,
and you
yeah.
stopped.
Yeah, on the side of
When
the street.
you opened, when your window went down, your energy was completely different. You were even giving me a little bit of flirtation. I don't know if you realized that.
Yeah, I
You want to
did.
show the?
No.
Yeah, it was a little bit, right? All of a sudden, I was like, we went from like, what are we going to talk about, to wow, we may have to collide on camera, to doors getting closed tonight.
If you're lucky. If you're lucky. By the way, our kids are watching us do this.
Yes, and she's looking right at me. That's a whole nother topic about being comfortable talking about sex with your kids. So let's backtrack for a second.
Okay.
So it's easy to talk about the aftermath and what got us through this situation. But when we are at our worst, it's when our communication styles are like
100%.
not aligned.
Yeah.
And so there's these 4 attachment styles, right? Do you want to go through them?
Yeah, totally. I mean, and I think it's interesting because I definitely find myself doing all 4 of them at different times. But yeah, first, I mean, go through them. You can talk about them
So
first.
I like starting from, well, we could just go this way. So there's avoidant. So I've had my share of hours of therapy, and you have too. And it's not a competition, but I've put in a ton of time. And what's interesting is a lot of these attachment styles come from your relationship with your parents, trauma when you were a kid, and your perceived trauma. Because a lot of it's real trauma, but some of it is just life, right?
Yeah.
And so one person in the relationship is like the avoidant. They're the ones that go, they run or they avoid. That's the one that is like going in one direction. And then you have the anxious. The anxious is the chaser. So the anxious one becomes the needy one, right? Seeking approval. The avoidant one doesn't want to talk about it. And then you have the avoidant anxious, which is a cornucopia of both of them. Now, what I find interesting is I've shown up in multiple different ways. And I know I said 4. There is a 4th that I want to talk about, but I'm waiting. I'm burying the lead on this one. So in different relationships, I've shown up in different ways. So in our relationship, what do you think you are?
I'm for sure the avoidant.
You're the avoidant.
I'm the retreat. I I need my space. I need my time. I need to think about this. And a lot of times you are the anxious that's chasing me, and then I'm retreating even more and it's like this cat and mouse type of thing, right? I'm trying to just get away.
And what's ironic for me is I've never been the anxious in the relationship. I'm usually the avoidant as well until I met you. And you are much better. I don't know if it's that Midwest fucking way about all of you or just culturally, like you could bury.
Oh, I can bury it, like the best of them.
Like put it in a grave.
I mean, have you met my parents?
Oh my God. I think I'm stubborn. It's like another level, right?
Totally.
And so I'm like, I'm not going to sleep until this is figured out.
Yeah.
And then I'm like having a conversation with myself because we're talking and you're just like, the vault goes up. Whoof, whoof, all the walls.
Yes.
And I'm like, here I am basically having a conversation. And so what'll happen for me is I will start resenting you for making me the anxious one because I don't want to fucking chase and then all my issues start coming up. Mm-hmm. So what do? I go from the anxious one to
the avoidant.
And then
or there's also like another part of this is like the escalator.
Yeah.
You also escalate. And then you get like really big and really like, grah. And I'm like, even more so when you do that, then even more so I'm going deeper. And I'm like, get out of my space. But I think it's interesting because
sometimes though.
Well,
remember
sometimes
remember you broke the phone?
Yeah, sometimes I get a little escalation.
So let's work this through. So it's interesting. We're having this conversation smiling, but you got to really understand where you're coming from here.
Yeah.
This way, like, if you have true conversations with this, you're able to kind of pull yourself out of the moment and talk about it from like, all right, you're doing this, I'm doing this. It doesn't always work, but I've noticed as our relationship and the amount of years we've been together, the more work we put in, we're able to have more elevated conversations with this without it going
the other direction.
Because the things that like seduce each other and we love about each other and compound each other can trigger the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
And then your trigger activates my trigger and my trigger will activate your trigger, right? So let's just give you an example. We could potentially have an issue and I'll be like, let's talk about it. And what will you do?
I will not want to talk about it.
I want to talk about it.
I will want to get in my car and drive away.
You will let it fester. Mm-hmm.
And then I'll go clean. I'll do something to keep me busy. I'll be like idle time, busy hands. Like that to me is my way of like, when I'm really pissed if I go start washing the dishes.
Yeah.
If I start washing the dishes and I'm like in my zone, something's going on because I hate washing the dishes.
Well, the most frustrating thing is like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing's wrong.
Give me a fucking break. And what's so wild is that like, we're not even unique. I'm sure there's so many relationships. This is the exact conversation
totally.
We're having.
And it could flip. Like a lot of times it's the masculine one that does what I do and it varies.
Yes.
Right.
100%.
And the woman's the one that wants to communicate and talk or it could be like just the masculine feminine, right? In same sex relationships. But it's typically, a lot of times it's the feminine that wants to connect and have those conversations and the masculine's the one that wants to retreat and avoid. But with us, it's a little bit of the opposite.
Yep.
And then also when I see your feminine come out, then I even go more in attack mode because I'm like, that's weak to me in like my psychology, right? And so then I get even more.
I feel weak in that moment. I start going, motherfucker.
And then you start resenting. Yeah.
And
it's
then
this crazy circle.
And then I not only become a masculine, I go over the top. I go from the lion who is like, I'm not dealing with this shit to
I just tapped the door and it broke a hole through it.
Or I just kill everybody, right? Like the jackals, And so, and then if I go too far with that, then you go crazy too.
Oh yeah.
I remember that fight we had. And you kept saying, like, it was so wild. You were like, don't touch me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I would never hit you. That's not who I am. But yet you were like, you felt so threatened. You were threatened by my truth. That's the truth.
No, I was threatened by the escalation.
And I know I'm a little intimidating, but that blew me away. I was almost confused. Like, What is she talking
Yeah.
about?
In fact, in most of our fights, which it's easy to talk about this now, and you're probably going to throw it in my face eventually. But when
Pay attention to
we've
this one.
had the biggest escalated fights, right? So there's a couple in my brain, right? Like there's the one in the new house when I don't think we had Ella yet, but we were in the new house. You busted the hand through my door, and I threw the thing of Thai food at your face. Like that.
My hand was bleeding.
Was wild.
Yeah.
This is really giving us a really good.
No, everybody has. How old are you? We were like 31
I was
and
22.
Yeah, there's a difference. This
And
is
then
15 years ago.
There was the time in Thailand. That was insane. And I remember standing on the bed just like with all of my force, like ready to like, I wanted to just kill you. I wanted
Closest
to
we
rip
came
you
to divorce.
to shreds.
Yeah.
And then the other time I literally just shattered my phone into 1,000 pieces because I was so upset, because what happens is I think I suppress so much to when like I do let it out, it's like I explode. It's like a bomb goes off and I'm like, all right, mother effer, I'm going to go. If you want to go there, I'm going to go there.
But what follows is what she wants to say is usually following the biggest fights and the biggest collisions become what?
We end up having a baby.
The biggest breakthroughs.
Totally.
Right. And I think people like they do all the work. They go through all the hard conversations. They go through all these years together. And just when they're like, this is too hard, they give up right before they get all of the gold of the relationship. It's just like business. Everybody gives up. Like right when the part
or they
of the
think they're alone. They think they're the only ones having these arguments and the only ones having these problems. And yet it's healthy to have conflict and debate, which leads me to the fact that our kids are watching us right now, right? Like it makes them really uncomfortable when we're having conversations and when we're arguing about things and in front of them, because a lot of times, unless it's a really bad argument, we don't really hide that from them. And I think that it's important for them to see how you can have that conflict and you can also reconnect after it. It's like that book I'm reading right now. It's called Getting to Zero. It's like this circle diagram with conflict and then reconnection. And it's like important for kids to also see that.
Unfortunately, I don't think people can even collide anymore, let alone in relationships. Everyone thinks that it just has to be this perfect relationship. So there's this like huge like run up of like, I love these people. I love this person. And like, there's this like unrealistic expectation around that it's always going to work. Mm-hmm. Whereas the relationships that are the strongest are the ones that can withstand fights and withstand debate and withstand. That's why we
turbulence.
That's why our divorce rate is so high. That's why we have such political division. I mean, that's why people feel alone, because they can't withstand true conversations.
Yep.
Whereas in the past, that conversation of truth is like a foundational part of a relation moving forward. Like, holy shit, we made it through this. This is a true friend. Like we can fight. Like even old school, I don't want to age myself too much, but like in New York, when you size somebody up, especially like middle school, grade school, you have a fist fight, a literal fist fight. You ended up becoming like best friends with that person.
Yeah.
Because it was a mutual respect. It was insane.
Well, you've done it a ton with just our staff, right? Like we've had people on our team or people and just friends, or, I mean, I know I could name a ton of different situations where you've literally had the conversation with people and been like, the fact that we can have this conversation is going to make our relationship that much stronger. And you tend to go there with people because most people aren't willing to have the crucial conversation that's really hard to have. And listen, I hate it. I hate conflict. I hate having that tension between two people, but it truly is. And that's one of the biggest things. Like I think about it all the time, how I was so good at retreating and so good at not communicating and
Hiding
and running, like just running from the conversation. And as much as I hate you for it sometimes, because at 3:00 in the morning, it's the last thing I want to do is have a conversation. And you like are pacing the room. Like, we're going to talk about this before we go to sleep. And I'm looking at you with daggers.
Like
and I'm like,
insane.
Like you're fucking insane, which sometimes you got to like, just let me go to sleep. But most of the time, like we've become stronger in the conversation. Like even just recently when we were eating Thai food, like I don't even know what we were talking about.
We were talking about this podcast.
Oh yeah. And I got super defensive.
Super defensive.
Walls went up.
And I was like, you're like, what do you mean? You don't look at it like this? I'm like, no, I'm just curious. And the fact, then I didn't attack. I let you hold space. And I said, the fact that you're looking at it like this is actually something I can connect to. And I reframed.
But because I was able to actually explain, right?
Well, one of my coaches talks about this. He's like, the more I can show up as a calm presence in my intensity, it gives everyone around me the opportunity to kind of like go through their emotions. So I got to hold more space. It's a little bit heavier, but that's my requirement for me.
Yeah.
Right? When we debate, like even last night, it was infuriating you that I was keeping my cool. It was infuriating you. And I wasn't trying to win, because I really wasn't, because I know that's a zero-sum game. How could you keep score? Like, I'm not trying to win this. If you were pissed, I lose.
No, I know. And last night, for example, which I'm sure a lot of couples do this, because instead of, this is me, and I'm talking from like my perspective, because I'm self-aware enough now that I know I do this. But like, if you're sitting, let's just, for example, you're sitting on the couch, you're chilling, you're watching football, you're just like living your best fucking life.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the dishes and I'm feeding the kids, and I'm like, they need to get their homework done. The baby's screaming because I said 5 minutes until dinner.
Yep.
And she's throwing a fit on the floor, and I'm wanting the girls to get their homework done. Instead of yelling at you and creating, like, having a conversation like, babe, can you please take care of this or do this? I end up screaming at the kids, because I'm actually really wanting to scream at you.
Yep.
But I also I know that you can argue back, and it can become this fight, and the kids, unfortunately, get the brunt of that.
That's a shame, because I
try so hard.
Not to just, because we had a nice conversation about that this morning. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I understand where you're coming from. We're going through so many identity shifts right now. We're making big pivots in our life. We're excited about it. And it's easy to get like, all right, I have clarity around what I want to do. I'm so enthused. I know what I have to do. And then life just smacks you across the face. So like, we have all this enthusiasm, and then the real world just hits, and we're stuck, right? Mm-hmm. We're fighting between this, and you're going through it in your own way, and I'm going through it in my own way. And I can understand that it feels heavy, mm-hmm. right? I mean, the conversation needs to be had, but of what it is to be a modern day woman I empathize with that. It's like,
that's a whole episode on
everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm the king and the man. And I was so appreciative when I was like, do you realize just the possibility of porting my whole company over to another one, right? Mm-hmm. That alone would destroy most men. Mm-hmm. It would have to be a full-time job of like risking millions of dollars and, holding space for all my employees and making sure my agents and taking care of my dad and how I show up in my identity as a man with you and myself. Like, that alone is unbelievable. And then you start stacking on a multi-million-dollar building, launching stuff like this, bringing on new people, a house, relationships. For me, it's nonstop. Now, I'm not a victim at all. Like, I say this once, I'll say this 1,000,000 times. I chose it, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah.
I made the rules of the game. But like, as you're feeling the way you feel, I'm trying to be like, I feel you, like see you and feel you, while at the same time going, man, it'd be nice if I'm seen and felt too, and that this is really my only sedation, where I get to turn my brain off for 2 seconds.
And last night, when you actually started communicating like that, I was like, well, yeah, you're right. Like, and that's the whole thing, right? Like, that's this whole topic, is that communicating that message, instead of going like, I'm looking at both roads that lead to like nowhere. Like, if you're going to not talk about something, you might as well just have the conversation, see if it can lead to something better, instead of just avoiding it completely. Which, when you started explaining yourself, I started being like, oh shit, you're right. Like, he is holding up his end of this the bargain here, right? And like, I need to also show up in this way to help support. And how can I help support? Like, it went from me like being so angry at you to me being like, how can I help? What can I do? What can I take on? You know what I mean? And so I think it just comes back to the communication and like having the conversations.
The communication is a lot more effective if you're foundationally strong, which you kind of talked about a little bit. Like if you see the world in a similar way, that's a good start. Yeah. If you're not foundationally there, it's going to be very hard jump to get there, right? Which you didn't mention is that we did have our little like book club last night with the girls, which has been a connecting thing where we feel connected to the girls, which then we connect to each other. And we're talking about concepts and we're talking about life and religion, all this stuff that we really haven't talked about in a while.
Yeah.
And so that gave us, even though it didn't get us all the way through, it gave us a little, I don't know, like window of like, okay, we can go from here to here.
Right.
Even though we didn't make it the whole way. And I'm so glad you mentioned it. Like sometimes it's just been too long since, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Every once in a while, I'm like, all right, we both just need a good one.
Well, even then you don't submit.
You just looked at her kids.
I know, because she's like, yeah, you still stand here.
Well, look what turn that's still working on.
All right, now get out of here. Go. So that's the other thing, right? And so these communication styles will then show up in sex.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, you have the men who are like, please have sex with me. Please fuck me. Right? Versus like...
Did you have to whisper that?
Yeah. Oh. Because I'm sure that's the way they do it.
They're just like, hey.
Right?
You're like...
And listen, I've been there. And then like, if I'm not in my power, like... I know, like, why am I getting resentful here? I just need to roll over and take fucking charge. And even if, not rape my wife, but even if you're resistant, we're going to get to where we need to go. And then afterwards, I'll be like, why'd you fight that? Huh?
Well, sometimes you got to tickle some things.
It's not about the tickle. It's just about, it's like a communication style.
Yeah.
Right? And so if everybody's just waiting for permission and the man doesn't take the lead and then the woman doesn't feel comfortable, we're in the same game again. So yes, sometimes you just need a nut, right? You need to release. I could use a fucking release. Right now.
I know you could.
So that was actually great. And then truly listening. Yeah. You know, I got to pull this out. Something I read the other day. Some years back, my wife and I got into the habit of asking each other, do you want comfort or solutions when the other was having a bad time? That one sentence can save us from an argument 9 out of 10 times. So that's where the listening comes into place, right? Do you want, like, just that conversation of like, I was like, we got this. Do you want it just me to listen or do you want me to fix?
Well, and I think both. I think there's some times where I do need you to just listen and vice versa. And sometimes you just want to be seen. I know,
that's why I'm asking the question.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying.
Let's say we were in it. And I said to you, right now, do you need comfort or do you need solutions? That would reframe you right in the moment.
And then I could tell you, I just need comfort.
Exactly.
I just need you to spoon me and cuddle and not have sex.
I mean, if you're getting into bed, I mean, my move used to always just be like, you want to just take our clothes off and lay here and see what happens.
Yeah, okay. Oh my God. Okay, but the other thing I want to mention too, 2 things. One is apologizing. I think that
coming out of your mouth
shut the fuck up.
Oh, we forgot the fourth attack, but continue. Yeah.
Okay, but one is like, there are times that I've had to dig down so incredibly deep, like so deep, like just to the depths of my toes. And I have to like pull it out. It's like...
Are we talking about the stick out of your ass? What are we talking
No, the apology.
Yes.
Because sometimes when I'm in that moment, like the last thing I want to do is be like, I was wrong, I'm sorry. And I've gotten way better than I I was 10 years
If you
ago.
say so yourself.
Come on.
All right.
Have I not?
You're a great apologizer. Fantastic. Like,
Listen, I'm getting there.
you're the Hall of Fame of apologies.
It's part of my like self-growth, okay?
Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think you have a hard time apologizing?
Because I don't know. It's the same reason why I have a hard time initiating sex. Like, it's just this, like, it's this block where I'm like, there's so many times.
So it's vulnerability is what you're saying.
Yes. It's exactly what it is.
It always comes back to that with you.
It really is. But if you think
On
about
our contract, it's going to be vulnerable, vulnerable, vulnerable. That's what I want.
well, yeah. And I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm going to do all the self-work with all the things to see where that stems from. And I can kind of see it. Like, my family is not, they're not vulnerable at all. Like, none of them. Love them dearly, but none of them are like openly.
They didn't have you had to go seek it out yourself. Plus, listen, even me, I mean, I come from strong Italian, New York. Like, we're vulnerable in a different way. Like, we just say what's on our mind. But I had to get to a point even to be in relationships where I stopped looking at vulnerability as a weakness.
Right.
And I had to look at it as like a superpower.
Yeah.
And that was when I was able to shift that frame. I was like, I had to be careful. I overcorrected and I started like blowtorching people with my strength of truth rather than just being like at peace with it. I was like, I'm going to kill you with my vulnerability. I'm going to out-true you.
Yeah, you can get there.
I know I can. Yeah.
For sure.
I use it as a weapon.
Totally.
Yeah. So you feel like in those moments you're more vulnerable?
100%. Like, it takes everything to just be like, oh, you know what? I was wrong and I'm sorry. Even if I like believe it, just the language to use that, like, I think it started, and I probably realize all the times I've done it because it is so hard for me when to you, it's just like, oh, great, she did it, but whatever. But like, I think I actually started by not verbalizing it and would just go and hug you. And that was like my way of being like, I'm so sorry. You know what I mean? Because I couldn't actually say the words. And so I think that that's a good start. But then it was like, eventually it was like, okay, I need to actually like verbalize this.
You know, it's wild because, and this is like a backhanded compliment, 15 years together. Mm-hmm. We've been through everything. And yet you're scared of being vulnerable, partially because of your fear of being hurt and partially of being intimidated by it, right? And being hurt.
And being rejected.
Exactly, which is wild because you're the most gorgeous woman, you know, you have it all. And yet here you are still dealing with that, right?
But that's the craziest thing. And we'll talk, I mean, that's another episode.
I know.
But like, even initiation and like doing that, like, I never had problems before. You know what I mean? Like, it was always just kind of like, oh. And then with you,
because
I just cared so much. I was like, God, I don't want to be rejected. Or I don't know. It was just different. It was weird, you know?
The stakes were so high.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the fourth attachment style, which when my therapist said it, I was like, that's a fucking unicorn. And it was secure, healthy relationship. And I'm not lying. I'm not even being funny. I was like, all these other ones make sense. And when she said it, I kind of just blew it off. I was like, yeah, no one has a healthy relationship. Good luck. That doesn't even exist. Good luck. And then I was like, no. I've experienced pockets of time in our relationship where I have felt this. And we've talked about this. This is when, and I believe in all relationships, even with things and emotions, but especially between two people, it's this want versus need. Like, I want you so bad. I choose you. But not enough where, like, I am going to be sacrificing, like, I need you. Like, I want you so bad. I choose you over and over again, but I don't need you. I don't care how many kids we have together. I don't care if you decided to break my heart or try tomorrow. I will not be killed. I will come back stronger and I will thrive and I will figure it out. And that's this way of feeling like coming to the relationship in a compounding way. That, I think, is the secret sauce of relationships and what this whole thing is based upon.
Well, totally. That's what I was going to say. That's going to be a theme that I think we use in so many different episodes of this, because I think that that's really where you get the balance in a secure and healthy relationship in so many ways.
And so if you're coming to a relationship with like, what do I want and choosing that person over and over again, and then wanting to be chosen over and over again, how differently do you show up to a relationship? So I think that's a great place to wrap up today. So let me ask you one more question. Are you over this fight? How much you digging me right now?
I don't even know what we were fighting
Hey,
about.
see, this is the shit I deal with. I don't even know what we're fighting. It was you just being mad at the world. You know what I believe it was?
What?
You being frustrated of not making the progress as quickly as you want to make it, and the real world just hitting you with it, and then seeing my own struggle and just getting frustrated.
Yeah, there's definitely frustration there, and feeling like I had to like show up in a bunch of ways where I was like just not feeling it at that moment.
Because you are showing up, but like just because you show up, you're controlling what you can control. Doesn't mean that everything else is going to comply. I mean, I'll walk out of this house.
Hello, kettle.
I was just about to say, can you even give me fucking a second to admit that I am patient zero, right?
Good.
I was like, I will walk out of this house with crystal clear clarity and like the world is my oyster. And sometimes I don't even make it to the gate where I have a text or a call or an email that fucks with my frame. Like,
Yep.
boom. And I'm like, here we go.
Done.
And so that's right. Checking in and continuing having these conversations is super important. So if you're lucky, you can close the door tonight, baby.
Yeah, we'll see.